The $75,000 freight broker bond scares the crap out of a lot of beginners. And that's a shame because most people do not actually understand what the freight broker bond really does. They think, I need $75,000 cash before I can become a freight broker. Wrong. They think the bond is basically insurance. Wrong again. They think that if they have bad credit, they have no chance of getting approved. Not always true. So in this video, I'm going to explain the freight broker bond in simple language, in simple terms, okay? What it is, why you need it, what it really costs, okay? That's what we're going to go over today, and how to avoid letting it stop you from building a real freight broker business. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Dennis Brown. I'm the founder of Freight Broker Bootcamp. I started my freight brokerage back in 2003. I went on to do over $200 million in sales. Since then, I've helped over 10,000 people learn how to become freight brokers and freight agents worldwide. And today, I'm going to make the freight broker bond simple for you, okay? Let's start with the biggest mistake. When people hear $75,000 freight broker bond, they think they need to write a check for 75 grand. That's not how it works. The bond amount is $75,000, but your actual cost is only a percentage of that amount. The FMCSA requires freight brokers to have a $75,000 surety bond or trust fund before they get their broker authority or becomes active. All right. The most common option for new brokers is called a BMC 84 surety bond. Now that may sound complex, but it's pretty simple. This bond is there to protect motor carriers and shippers if the broker does not pay what they owe. It's that simple. For example, if a broker hires a carrier to move a load, the carrier delivers the load, and then the broker fails to pay, the carrier may be able to file a claim against the broker's bond. That's the basic purpose. It creates a financial accountability in the marketplace, okay? So here's what a lot of beginners get confused about. A freight broker bond is not the same thing as insurance. Insurance is designed to protect you from certain covered losses. A surety bond is different. The bond protects the public, including carriers and sometimes shippers, from financial harm caused by a freight broker. And that's the important part that you have to understand. If the surety bond company pays a valid claim to a carrier freight invoice based on a freight invoice, they can come back to you for reimbursement. So the bond is not a free pass. It doesn't protect you from bad business decisions. It doesn't mean you can pay carriers late. It doesn't mean you can ignore cash flow. It doesn't mean you can run a sloppy business, right? The bond is required, but good business practices are what protect you long term. That means you need to pay carriers on time and invoice shippers quickly and use written agreements and manage your receivables and avoid moving freight for customers who are not likely to pay. The bond gets you in the game, but good systems keep you in the game. All right, so now let's talk about the cost. Again, a BMC 84 freight broker surety bond does not cost $75,000. Brokers pay a premium, kind of like an insurance policy. That premium depends on your credit, your financial history, your experience, and the surety bond company that you're working with. Some people with good to excellent credit may only pay between $900 and $2,000 a year. Pretty simple. Others may pay more if your credit is weaker. Your quote may be several $1,000s per year. But here's the good news. The bond is not some impossible wall. New freight brokers get bonded every day. Some have great credit, some have average credit, and some have less than perfect credit. The key is to apply, compare your options, and work with a company that understands freight broker bonds. And remember, your first bond quote does not have to be your forever quote. If you build better credit, if you improve your financial situation, if you run your business responsibly, you may qualify for better pricing later. So don't let one quote crush your confidence. Treat it as part of the startup process. Okay, so there are two main ways to meet FMCSA financial security requirement. The first is the BMC 84 surety bond, which is what we've been talking about. And the second is a BMC 85 trust fund. Most new freight brokers use the BMC 84 because it requires much less cash up front. The BMC 85 trust fund is not a bond and generally requires the full $75,000 be deposited into a trust. So for most beginners, that's not realistic. That's why the BMC 84 bond is the more common path for new freight brokers. The simple version is this. BMC 84 means you're using a surety bond. BMC 85 means you're putting up the trust funds. Okay? For most brokers, the BMC 84 is the path they look to first. Now, let's walk through where the bond fits into the overall startup process. First, you apply for your freight broker authority through the FMCSA. Second, you complete the BOC3 filing. This is your BOC3 process agent filing. It gives the FMCSA the required contact structure for legal documents in each state. Number 3, you get the freight broker bond. Once approved, the bond is filed with the FMCSA. And 4th, once the required waiting period is passed and all the requirements are completed, your freight broker authority can become active. That is the simple version. Okay? Apply for the authority, file the BOC3, get the bond filed, and wait for activation. Then you can legally operate as a freight broker. Should the bond scare you? No. You should respect it. You should understand it. You should budget for it. But you should not let it scare you out of the business. Freight brokerage is still one of the lower cost businesses you can start compared to many other industries. You don't need to buy trucks. You don't need a warehouse. You don't need huge staff. You don't need hundreds of thousands of dollars in equipment. You can start lean. You can work from home. You can focus on a specific niche. You can build relationships with shippers and carriers, but you need to learn the business the right way. Getting the bond is not the finish line. It's the starting line. The real work begins when you start finding shippers and quoting lanes and selecting carriers, moving loads and managing paperwork and billing customers and paying carriers. Those are the day-to-day activities of a broker. That's where new brokers either separate themselves or struggle. Not because the business doesn't work, but because they're trying to wing it. Don't just wing it. Learn the steps. Follow the system. Follow the process. Build the business correctly from the beginning. Okay, so now let's answer a few common questions very quickly. First, do freight agents need a bond? No, not if they're working under a licensed freight broker's authority. The broker has the authority, the bond, and the responsibility. That's why some beginners start as a freight agent first. They can learn the business, build sales skills, gain experience before taking on the full responsibility of owning the brokerage. Okay, next question. Can you get bonded with bad credit? Possibly yes. Bad credit can make it more expensive, and some companies may decline you, but it does not always mean that you're finished. There are surety bond companies that work with different credit situations. Next, does the bond replace insurance? No. The bond and insurance are totally different. The bond is required by the FMCSA. Insurance depends on your business model, your customers, and your risk tolerance. Okay, next question. Can someone make a claim against your bond? Yes. That's why you need to operate properly. Pay carriers on time. Use contracts. Keep records. Don't work with bad customers. Don't spend money that belongs to the carriers. Run the business like a business. Now, I want to hear from you. What's your biggest question about the freight broker bond? Is it the cost, the approval process, about bad credit, difference between a BMC 83 or 84 and a BMC 85? Or how does the bond fit into the full startup process? Drop your questions in the comments below because I read all the comments and I try to answer as many as I can. And if you want help understanding the basic steps to become a freight broker, download my free cheat sheet. It's called How to Become a Freight Broker in 7 Simple Steps. You can see the link in the description below. It will walk you through the key steps, what to do first, what to do next, and how to avoid getting overwhelmed. So comment below with your biggest bond question, download the free cheat sheet, and I'll see you in the next video.